The base is dropped on a Thursday morning here in SDH land. Soccer Down here, live, Thursday Thoughts edition, April 18th. Felipe Cardenas of the Athletic will join us in 30 minutes. We'll talk Atlanta United, but we'll also talk about MLS as a whole because Felipe's got a bigger new gig these days as a full-time writer over at The Athletic, not just covering Atlanta United, although, he is kind of based here, so I'm sure there will be plenty of Atlanta United conversation with our friend Senor Cardenas. We'll also talk about everything that happened yesterday because it was kind of a wild day on these shores, across the ocean, in Champions League. It was kind of a wild one. We'll get into that. We'll look around MLS. We'll get you set for the fantasy weekend, even though the week started last night, John, with a surprise result for us. We talked about it yesterday. Didn't expect Vancouver to pull anything out of this. They win 1-0, 3 points.
Yeah, and I think that's just the late personification of the day in and of itself. So it took 7 matches, and Marc Dos Santos finally got the Duke and pretty much shocked me for my late night viewing last night. And it was a great volley from Inbom after PC hit the post from 20 plus, and good follow, and they held LAFC in check, and I was completely and totally surprised by it. So I give the Vancouver Whitecaps my high five on National High Five Day.
That's the lamest day. Well, no, I don't want to say that because there are probably lamer days, but that's a pretty weak one.
The lamest to date day?
Well, it's the lamest
day to date.
Because I'm sure it's National whatever other day, too. I mean, there's probably 5 other national days it is, but National High Five Day is kind of weak. Look, let's give Marc Dos Santos some credit here. They are now they've only lost one of their last 4. They lost at home to the Galaxy 2-0, but they drew with Seattle. They took points off of Seattle, who's undefeated. They gave LAFC their first loss of the season. They probably dropped points on the road in Chicago, where they should have picked up 3 there. Feels like maybe they're rounding into form. And in their last 5, even before that Seattle match, they lost in Houston 3-2. Houston isn't exactly a bad team this season, so maybe we've been a little harsh on Mr. Dos Santos.
Well, and that's, you look at something, and I think that we look at and give it an instant reaction, and you sit there and you say, okay, well, yeah, you did X and you're not doing very well. And then you come up and then you thump LAFC right across the skull and sit there and say, yeah, okay, so we're a work in progress. And this is that example of that. So, I mean, you and I know Dos Santos's pedigree from his time in the North American Soccer League and from his time in the USL. And we know what he has done in bringing championships to teams in the lower divisions. So his lower division pedigree is there. Now he's given the chance after being one of the assistants at LAFC. So I'm sure he had some advanced intel as well going up against Bob Bradley. So a couple of different things in there, and you put things together on a good night and you get a good midweek win. So, and it was a pretty decent crowd for a midweek match at BC Place. So I tip my hat to him, completely and totally shocked by the result. And you hope that if you're a Whitecaps fan, that's something that you can move on with and learn from it and not regress any further after just getting that midweek Duke.
Yeah, Wang Inbom gets his first goal. He's man of the match. It's a great half volley from him after Vancouver had hit the bar a couple of times before that. LAFC did rotate some guys, especially defensively, but they still stayed true to playing the way that they play. Vancouver gave them some problems. They pressed them early. They caused some mistakes, created some chances. I mean, they ended up with 11 shots, 4 on target on the night, even with only 39% possession. It wasn't a fluke. And I think that's the thing to take out of this is sometimes you get these kind of results and it's like, oh, well, they had one shot. They got lucky. All right, the other team dominated. I don't know if I'd say LAFC dominated this. It was a pretty even game, and I thought Vancouver had the right game plan, and Marc Dos Santos gets the win.
Yeah, and you look at the numbers and you dive into it a little bit, and 39% possession, but when you've got 11 shots and 4 of them on target, that's once again, I just sit there and said, not a result I anticipated by any stretch of the imagination, but sometimes you have these teams that'll come up there and they'll sit there and it's like, they'll tap you on the shoulder and remind you what they're capable of. And I know that when I was looking at a lot of the off-season acquisitions that were being brought into Vancouver, you lose a Kendall Waston and you bring in players from all corners of the world, and you're sitting there going, okay, that's interesting. And you see the early run of form for Vancouver and you're going, okay, so either he's got a plan or the plan just is already having the wheels come off and the oil's getting a little leaky under the engine. You have a situation like you had last night, and it's like, okay, all right, so I see what you're doing now. Now can you build from it? I think that's the bigger question for me from Vancouver.
Yeah, and we'll see if they can build from this. 17,000 was the crowd. That's not great in terms of Vancouver. It's not bad for a midweek game in MLS. Now, there are some issues in Vancouver, and look, we don't have all the details about what's going on here. This is some stuff dating back 10, 11 years with the women's Whitecaps and the U20 women's national team. It's a mess. You have supporters groups staging walkouts. It's something that the club needs to address, and it's kind of ugly right now. So hopefully the statement that came out yesterday from the club is looked at, and maybe they try to figure out a better way to handle this, because there's a lot of concerns here about the way these issues were handled in 2008. Allegations of abuse, allegations of manipulation. And yes, that coach was let go from the club, but he went on to work for another club in the city, and that club didn't know anything about the allegations. So that's a problem, and hopefully it's something the Whitecaps can deal with. They've got something else to deal with too. They head to Orlando to play on Saturday. That's a quick turnaround. So flying straight to Orlando today. They get the win to give them some momentum going in, but man, that's going to take a lot out of you.
All right, so in a normal run, today would be basically regen. Tomorrow would be light practice to get you ready for Saturday, if that. That's pretty much standard form, yeah? Yeah,
pretty standard.
So you're having to regen after flying from one end of the country to the other. So, it's... This is going to be an interesting rehab in short term. Tomorrow is probably just a light walkthrough in video, if anything, I would think.
Yeah, today it's just travel, whatever region you can do on the road. You probably watch some clips, and then tomorrow will be a little bit of a combination, I would assume, of a small training session, not all that intense. It's tough. You're throwing 2 days out of whack ahead of a match. So we'll see how they handle it. They've got something to build on, though, with another good result, their first win of the season, and we'll see if Marc Dos Santos can build from here. Other action yesterday, USL Championship, we'll move there first. Red Bulls 2 move into the top spot in the East. They're level with St. Louis on points. They won 4-0 over Hartford. Hartford Athletic made it difficult in the first half. All the goals for New York came in the second half. Tom Barlow gets his second goal of the season, and for the Red Bulls 2, it's their best start in club history. Pretty impressive so far, and you see that value, as we've talked about consistently with New York. You see the value of having that second team and a winning second team, because those guys should be able to step into the first team and keep it rolling.
Yeah, and from what you and I have seen over the last year plus, when we're looking at Red Bulls 2, and you see the value of that philosophy and making sure that the continuity is there. And I've looked at Red Bulls too, and I've always thought that they were one of those sides that you're going to sit there and have to be concerned about. And you're looking at the Eastern Conference, and I know that Hartford is a work in progress. Last night you get a goal from Stroud in the 53rd. Barlow gets his 6th. Derek Etienne Jr. 7 minutes later than Chris Lima gets one in the 89th, and so you're getting the balance. You're getting the balance scoring that that we know from Red Bulls too, and the fact that you're able to do it against a Hartford team that is still trying to find its sea legs under Jimmy Nielsen. 13 shots, 8 on net, and 8 corners to no corners for Hartford. And I think that kind of personifies what you're seeing defensively from Red Bulls too as well. So a lot of different things to look at from Red Bulls too right now at 4-0-1, 13 points, and on Hartford right now is 0-7 coming out of the blocks in the Eastern Conference in the USL Championship.
Yeah, all their games on the road. We'll see if things change for Hartford when they finally get home. Out west, Austin Bold, they get a win. They give Phoenix their first loss of the year, 1-0. Phoenix, 18 shots, 5 saves from Diego Restrepo, and Sonny Guadarrama gives Austin the win. In WSL, North Carolina Courage, pretty dominant performance. It took them a little while to break through. Felt like they were peppering Orlando's goal. Lynn Williams gets the first right before halftime, and then it's just an onslaught. Jess McDonald with a goal. Julia Spetzmark finishes things off. Crystal Dunn has 2 in the middle. 30 shots for North Carolina in a 5-0 win over Orlando.
And this was the thing that surprised me. You sit there and you're thinking, okay, 5-0, that it was going to be that the goals were going to be coming in from pillar to post, but that first goal didn't happen until the 45th minute. But when you look at the match, you see that North Carolina pressured Orlando and created a couple of turnovers really just outside the area, and it turned into a couple of quick transitional opportunities for the Courage. But yeah, I think that to the point that you made yesterday about the Courage being mad, I think the last thing that you need if you're the NWSL is a mad North Carolina Courage team, and you saw that last night. The Spetzmark goal that finished it off, it was off the bar, off the keeper, and into the net. But you'll take them however you can. It was great work on the Crystal Dunn goals and Jess McDonald as well. So great, well-rounded effort to put 5 in there in 46 minutes of action, basically, and keeping Marta in check. But yeah, I think the Courage got mad, and you saw what happened.
Yeah, 9 shots for Orlando, none on target. They did have a couple of chances in the first half. Just unable to get anything on goal. And then, Ashlyn Harris, she made, 8 saves in the match and still conceded 5. That's just it's a rough night. And she had some very choice comments after the season opening loss over the weekend. Said it just wasn't good enough in colorful language, and I'm sure she probably had even more colorful language after this one, where she's just under siege from North Carolina. Orlando, I can't figure it out. They have a lot of talent. They have some superstars. It just doesn't feel like a very balanced team, and to concede that much on the road, it's a big question mark for Mark Skinner, who's new in charge in Orlando. Let's take a break here. We've got some MLS news and notes we want to hit in the next segment, and a player who is out of contract at the end of the year, and it's a little surprising that it's at this point. Now, everybody says it's not a big deal, but he could sign a pre-contract in the summer and leave on a free, and this is not a player you want to watch walk out your door and get nothing. No. We'll get into that on the other side right after this.
Today's show is presented by Appolinsky & Associates, personal injury lawyers with over 30 years of experience, supporters of Atlanta United, Faction, and Inter-Atlanta Youth Football Club. If you've been hurt in a wreck, contact Steve today at steve@aa-legal.com or call in 24/7 at 404-377-9191. The initial consultation is free.
A ranger station.
I'd like to report a bear hug.
Okay.
I put out my campfire and Smokey Bear hugged me.
So you drowned the fire, you stirred it, drowned it again, and felt that it was cold?
Uh-huh.
Yeah, but he's just letting you know you did good.
Bear hug from Smokey Bear. Status update.
I'm gonna let you go now. There are many ways to start a fire, but one sure way to put it out. Learn how you can do your part at SmokeyBear.com.
Sponsored by the U.S. Forest Service, Ad Council, and your state forester.
We know that every driver is different, and a one-size policy does not fit all. That's why Country Financial offers a variety of discounts, so you get the coverage you need and the savings you deserve. From good driver to good student, multi-policy to multi-car, we've got a discount to suit every driver. Call Jason Wright at 678-568-6871 today to see what you could save. On Facebook at Jason Wright Agency, or by phone at 678-568-6871. Discounts vary by state. Policies issued by Country Mutual Insurance Company, Country Preferred Insurance Company, or Country Casualty Insurance Company, Bloomington, Illinois.
Every hiring manager knows that a company is only as good as the people it's made from. So where do you find the best people? That may surprise you.
Meet the grads of life. Young adults of unique determination and experience. An ideal fit for your company in an entry-level position, internship, or even mentorship. They might not have every qualification you typically look for, but they're exactly who your company needs.
This is talent worth knowing about.
Go to gradsoflife.org to learn how to find, cultivate, and train this great pool of untapped talent. Brought to you by the Ad Council and gradsoflife.org.
Welcome back. Soccer Down here, April 18th. MLS news and notes, and this one surprised me yesterday, John, when great interview with Paxton Pomykal over at MLSsoccer.com, a player who has been one of the best players in the league so far in 2019. He revealed that he's out of contract at the end of the season. This is a US U20 international, one of the best teenagers in Major League Soccer, and he could walk on a free. He could, at this point, say, no, I'm good. I'm not going to sign a contract, and sign a pre-contract with whoever he wants in the summer and leave at the end of the season. What?
Yeah. That was. I think that I probably had a bit of a continuation from that quote that was probably packed with the occasional colorful metaphor. But I feel like Taylor Twellman might be appropriate here. It's just like, what are you doing? What are you doing? I understand what you're trying to do right now on the field, but for FC Dallas to have not taken care of this situation and locked Paxton Pomykal up for 11 billion years, how have you waited this long and had it slip through everything? And you're hoping maybe that the fact that he has revealed this in this interview, sits there and lights a fire under the front office instead of lighting the front office on fire, that you lock him down. Lock him down in, let's see, technically in the next 2 months and 3 days, because that's, I think, summer solstice is June 21st. 2 months and 3 days. You have to lock this down. 63 days. What in the wide world of sports are you not doing? What are you thinking? Obviously, you're not thinking. And to me, it's like the scene in Ferris Bueller, where Matthew Broderick hits Alan Ruck in the pants. Where'd you kick me? Where's your brains? That's what I'm seeing right now with FC Dallas in regard to Paxton Pomykal. Where'd you kick me? Where's your brains?
Well, let's also be a little fair here. This is a player who was under contract for 3 years coming into 2019. Had played a grand total of 265 minutes in MLS play. 3 starts, 8 matches going into 2019. So coming into the season, I somewhat get it, okay? It's a little bit of a show and prove. Man, it's a risky roll of the dice. Mm-hmm. And especially once you see early on, once you see that Luchi Gonzalez is going to be in charge, once you know that Luchi Gonzalez values Paxton Pomykal, Paxton knows exactly what Luchi wants out of this system. 3 central midfielders who all, have the ability to sit, have the ability to go box to box, have the ability to be playmakers. Paxton is a complete central midfielder who can do all of those things. You should have realized pretty quick in preseason that he's going to get a lot of playing time. And, oh, yeah, by the way, he can walk at the end of the year. You do have those 60-plus days now where you have a chance to negotiate and nobody else does, and you need to take full advantage. Pomykal Pomacall holds all the cards here. He can say, nope, I'm good, and then have a deal in place in the summer and leave at the end of the year on a free. We've seen a lot of Dallas players go over to Germany. It's happened. We've seen them go over and have success. That's happened too. Pomacall's a player who was already compared to Frankie de Jong by AS in Spain. It's a little lofty for somebody who started 9 games in their professional career, but a player who is mentioned in those types of words who is available on a pre-contract in the summer for nothing is going to be in demand. Can Dallas get a deal done? Now, the talk in the interview was, yeah, everything's fine. We're going to be fine. Nothing to worry about here. Which you have to say. I mean, get it. You can't freak out, when that's said. But, man, I don't think that was said and revealed by Paxton Pomacall to Sam Stejskal by accident.
No.
I mean, this is a big deal for Dallas, and they have to play this one out correctly, because if he walks on a free after Weston McKennie walked before signing a deal, you're going to have some problems. And now Luchi Gonzalez is a manager who obviously has no fear playing the kids, and that's the idea here. Yes, he still has things to prove. I completely agree. But you'd like for him to prove them in a Dallas shirt.
Yes.
That's the issue here. That's the big issue. Let's go to a quick break. We'll be right back after this.
As a business owner, you know that every year brings new challenges and opportunities. The success of your business demands expertise and focus. And Country Financial can help you keep that focus by helping ensure you have the right insurance protection in place to meet your goals. Jason Wright can help you create a customized insurance plan that has coverages designed just for your business. Give Jason a call at 678-568-6871 or reach him on Facebook at Jason Wright Agency. Coverages vary by state. Policies issued by Country Mutual Insurance Company, Bloomington, Illinois.
Got issues with youth or high school sports? Positive Coaching Alliance can help. PCA is a national nonprofit working to transform youth and high school sports so that every child has a positive character-building youth sports experience. PCA provides live and online workshops to train double-goal coaches whose first goal is winning and whose second, more important goal is teaching life lessons through sports. PCA also has workshops for parents and high school student athletes. For more information, please visit positivecoach.org.
If you've been hurt in a car wreck, contact my friend Steve Apolinski of Apolinski and Associates. He's been representing individuals for over 30 years throughout Georgia and Alabama. Email him at steve@aa-legal.com or call him 24/7 at 404-377-9191. The initial consultation is free.
I adopted Bento in 2010 from a shelter. This cat makes me make art. He's always motivating me to draw pictures of him. He just is motivating artistically. He's my best friend, but a lot of people know him as Keyboard Cat.
Keyboard Cat, YouTube star and shelter pet. Amazing adoption stories start in shelters. Start yours today. Visit theshelterpetproject.org to find a pet near you. Brought to you by Maddie's Fund, the Humane Society of the United States, and the Ad Council.
Welcome back. Soccer Down here. Felipe Cardenas will be joining us in just a bit. John, the Paxton Pomacall stuff just surprises me because you get this conversation that comes out in the media, and it comes out on MLS's website, which to me is okay. So now it's advertised out there, and if clubs didn't know that he was out of contract at the end of the year, well, now
you do.
I mean, what kind of deal are we talking about for him now? It's hard because he's only got 9 starts in his career.
But because this is now out in public purview, is it going to be a deal where you're going to probably have to, and I'm using air quotes here, I know it doesn't translate to radio, but the word overpay, because it's now out there. And you can't lose Paxton Pomacall, even though you have this limited space of him being an integral part of your team. So I think that it is now to the point where, okay, it's now out there. You know that teams from all over, let's just say Europe and the Americas for the sake of argument, they're going to come at Paxton Pomykal and his agent and sit there and say, hey, how about this? And then Pomykal is going to have to go back to Dallas and say, okay, hey, Team X, Atletico Madrid, hey, they want me for, this kind of money. And then FC Dallas and their financial prudence and trying to develop a team a certain way under Luchi Gonzalez is going to have to make a decision. Are you going to have to match what overseas team or hemispheric team A is putting on the table? And is it worth your time and investment to either match or surpass that to keep Paxton Pomykal at home? And then you have to sit there and if you're Paxton Pomykal and his representatives, do I think that I can, challenge for positions wherever Team A is located? Do I want to take that risk in my career to try to further it away from being a domestic player? Do I want to go where Team A is and try to figure out, okay, I think I can play that level of soccer at, in location A. And so I think that you're going to have teams coming after him. It's going to be an interesting question for Paxton himself. How do I want to challenge myself? What is my next challenge? And then is FC Dallas on the front office going to sit there and say, well, we think this much of you that we're going to match that and keep you here and not blow up their financial constraints and their financial approach. And so there's a lot of financial gymnastics here that have to go. But I think if you're FCD, you're going to have to sit there and look at what Team A is going to want to bring in that pre-contract and say, okay, we'll either match it or we'll let you go. But I don't think you can afford to let Paxton Pomykal go because of recent results.
Well, there's another complication into this. Paxton Pomykal will likely be part of the U20 World Cup team before the summer window opens. How often do we see players have a great U20 World Cup and then be in high demand?
Mm-hmm.
If Paxton Pomykal goes over and lights it up in this World Cup, it's going to be hard to keep him because, I mean, he's a guy who last year total compensation was $90,000. I mean, is he going to be a TAM player? That's a huge jump. He might have to be if you're going to keep him, especially if he goes and has a big World Cup.
Yeah, and that's the thing, is that if you go over there, you prove yourself on an international stage, and then you'll have more than just Team A chasing after you, I'm sure, when you have the pre-contract coming at you. But, once again, we get back to that whole idea of if you want to keep somebody, you might have to overpay, or if you want to try to attract talent, you're going to have to overpay to bring them in. We've seen it before with teams who are struggling. They'll overpay to bring someone in just to make sure that whatever they think their on-field weakness is, that they can shore that up. But this is a play for the next couple of years. And to your point, if Pomykal lights it up, his value goes up, and it's going to be more than just Team A chasing after him. And like I said, it goes back to me wondering if FC Dallas can invest to the level that a team who wants to sign him to a pre-contract is going to want to. Is the offer going to be so incredibly out the door that FCD has to just sit there and say, okay, yeah, we didn't close this down and we can't match. And then they get exposed for not having taken care of it in the first place.
Well, Dallas needs to try to not have it get to that point, because if it becomes a bidding war, you're going to have a problem.
Yep.
I think Dallas is going to end up playing chicken with this World Cup because they don't have to let him go. That's where the U20 World Cup is tricky. You don't have to let players go. If I'm Dallas, I want to get him under a contract before I let him go. Now, I think you're going to have to make some concessions in that. One, you're going to have to pay, and you're going to have to pay probably pretty big money to keep him. Two, you're going to have to probably make some promises that if there's an offer from a certain club or at a certain level, that you're going to let him go and you're not going to fight it. Dallas doesn't have any negotiating power here, but
no.
they can't. I just don't think it's a smart move to let him go to that World Cup without an agreement going forward. Even if it's adding another year or two, but with the promise that, hey, if the right offer comes along, we'll sell you. You have to get something out of it. And if you let him go to the World Cup, go into that shop window, get noticed, and walk on a free, it's just bad business. And it is a business. And yes, we want to see American players play at the highest levels. Yes, I think Paxton Pomacall is a player who can play in Europe and do well. Is he ready now? I don't know. But you can't let players walk on a free that you've invested in. And Dallas has invested significantly in their academy, and they've gotten some returns. They've also missed out on some returns. This is a player you just can't miss out on the return. So you're going to have to be shrewd in how you handle this if you're Dallas. Now, in the article, Sam Stejskal writes that the confirmation that he's out of contract after 2019 is potentially alarming for supporters. Quote, but Pomacall and Gonzalez didn't sound too worried about it. He knows he's got a lot left to prove. For now, he's focused on what's in front of him. All that's true. But it's a business for the club, and it's a business for Paxton Pomacall. And you need to find a way to get into alignment on those business aims. And right now, with that contract up at the end of this season, it's such a tricky situation. We'll see how it gets handled, and we'll see what happens as we get closer to that World Cup squad being announced by Tab Ramos. They definitely are going to want Paxton Pomacall. Would be shocked if he is not chosen as part of the squad, and this is another one that Tab Ramos is going to have to battle about, potentially, in getting him. You're going to have to battle about Mark McKenzie, who looks like he's going to be in line for his first start in MLS this season, this weekend. He's trying to make that U20 squad. Might have to battle about Andrew Carlton, who is looking more and more likely like a player who will feature with that U20 group. Clubs don't have to let these guys go, and it's very complicated for these young players who are either a key part of the squad or becoming a key part of the squad. It's a minefield.
And how well your metal detector works and how well you view the road is the key here. And you can't afford to take a misstep. And for Dallas, this is one you're going to have to tread lightly, and you're going to have to make sure that everything is functioning properly when it comes to your plan. Because, you've got to sit there and think, 1, 2, 3 steps ahead. I think, honestly, let me ask you this. Do you think that this is the first FC Dallas having to play chess when it comes to players, keeping players, juggling their budget, working their, gam and tam? Is this their first real test in MLS 3.0?
On that kind of level, yeah. I think it is. You've had academy players with interest before, guys who were either not under contract like a Weston McKennie, or players who've been under contract like Chris Richards, who just went to Bayern Munich. You did get some money out of that one. Players have went to Mexico, and you've been able to get something out of it. Not to this degree, though, because I do think there is a scenario where Pomacall goes to the U20 World Cup, stars for the U.S., helps them get out of the group, turns a lot of heads, and is in high demand. That could happen all very quickly, and I guess the player's out of contract at the end of the year. So I'm fascinated to see how Dallas handles this and how much hardball they play, because I think they have to play some here. And you shouldn't have been in this situation. You're going to have to play some hardball on that U20 World Cup bid. That's your leverage. That is your negotiating point. Is, okay, you want to go to the U20 World Cup, you have to sign a new contract. We're not going to let you go and go into that shop window when we have no say over it. Now, Paxton can call the team's bluff there and say, okay, I'm not going to sign it, and I am not going to sign a deal with you, and I'm walking. I'm out. That's the risk because of where you've gotten to at this point. So very, very tricky for Dallas as this year plays out. Honestly, as these next couple of months play out. And I think you're going to have something come to a head in the next month ahead of the World Cup. I think you're going to have to. If you don't, you're absolutely running the risk that he's gone and he signs a deal in the summer. I don't think you can allow that to happen. Some other news and notes as we get into a pretty busy weekend around the league. The LA Galaxy have some defensive issues at the moment. Giancarlo Gonzalez is dealing with some paperwork issues. He might not be available for Friday night's match. Rolf Felcher has a groin injury. He's out of the match. They host Houston. This is not a pushover match on Friday night, 11 o'clock Eastern. It's on Unimas. The Galaxy have an opportunity now with LAFC dropping points in the midweek. Can they take advantage of it? They could pull 1 point behind LAFC on Friday night. Houston is right there as well, and Houston is 1-0-0 on the road this year.
Yeah, and I know that later in the show we can get into what we think is going to go down this weekend. Are we pulling this game officially out of that segment and dropping it here?
No, just a little bit of discussion.
Okay. Now, I saw the Felcher injury, and when that went down, you're kind of sitting there going, okay, that's going to be a little while. And I think that with the way that Houston likes to do things offensively, it could turn into issues about having to track Memo and Elis and Manotas and Cabezas and all of that. So I think that the defense could be stretched a great deal for the Galaxy in this one. And I made this point in some of the other shows that we do and that we're associated with, that this one could turn into a street fight. And this one could be one of those 3-2, 4-3 back and forth games that, if you're looking to fall asleep late Saturday night, this one's not going to help you do that.
Friday night.
And so I'm still wary of Houston on the road. I know that they've improved, but until Houston can solidly do things on the road, I've still got to go with the Galaxy here. But I think that it might have to be one of those FIFA 19s where it's 4-3 or something like that. And then I think that the Galaxy will be exposed. I just think that they're just too high powered at home.
Yeah, it feels like a high-scoring one. Houston swept the series last year. They did win. Remember, they knocked the Galaxy out of the playoffs on the road in Carson on decision day. They've actually had some success in Carson. So can they do it again? They're going to have to score at least 3, I think, to do it. And with the Galaxy's backline ailing the way they are, I think they could score 3. So we'll see. We'll get deeper into that with your MLS Fantasy update at the top of hour number 2. But up next, Felipe Cardenas from The Athletic. We'll be right back.
As a business owner, you know that every year brings new challenges and opportunities. The success of your business demands expertise and focus. And Country Financial can help you keep that focus by helping ensure you have the right insurance protection in place to meet your goals. Jason Wright can help you create a customized insurance plan that has coverages designed just for your business. Give Jason a call at 678-568-6871 or reach him on Facebook at Jason Wright Agency. Coverages vary by state. Policies issued by Country Mutual Insurance Company, Bloomington, Illinois.
Got issues with youth or high school sports? Positive Coaching Alliance can help. PCA is a national nonprofit working to transform youth and high school sports so that every child has a positive character-building youth sports experience. PCA provides live and online workshops to train double-goal coaches whose first goal is winning and whose second, more important goal is teaching life lessons through sports. PCA also has workshops for parents and high school student athletes. For more information, please visit positivecoach.org.
If you've been hurt in a car wreck, contact my friend Steve Apolinski of Apolinski & Associates. He's been representing individuals for over 30 years throughout Georgia and Alabama. Email him at steve@aa-legal.com or call him 24/7 at 404-377-9191. The initial consultation is free.
I adopted Bento in 2010 from a shelter. This cat makes me make art. He's always motivating me to draw pictures of him. He just is motivating artistically. He's my best friend, but a lot of people know him as Keyboard Cat.
Keyboard Cat, YouTube star and shelter pet. Amazing adoption stories start in shelters. Start yours today. Visit theshelterpetproject.org to find a pet near you. Brought to you by Maddie's Fund, the Humane Society of the United States, and the Ad Council.
Welcome back, Soccer Down here. The authoritative tweet has been posted. Therefore, we know what time it is. It's time for Thursdays with Felipe, as at Felipe Carr from at the Athletic, capital letters SCCR, is now hanging out with us. Felipe, congratulations, my friend.
Thank you, John. Thank you. I'm obviously fired up, like I told Jason Davis on Tuesday, I believe. Just, honored, privileged to be part of such a stacked team over at the Athletic Soccer. Just really talented writers. My editors are excellent. They really elevate our work and allow us to do what we really love. So, yeah, looking forward to kicking off officially this Monday in my full-time role.
And you're, now does this mean that you're going to have to save all of your receipts and you're going to be flying all over the place and making sure that you got everything reimbursed and reimbursal sheets that are 9 pages long? I mean, what are we talking about here with this new role that you're going to be doing, where you're going to be traveling in both hither and yon? And I have heard that both of those cities have good soccer teams.
Yeah, I'm hoping they have good soccer teams and good food as well. I mean, I think what they've laid out for us, and I mean, Paul Tenorio and George Karashi, especially what they've really told us, the other writers, is that, now we're able to pitch and chase the stories that we want. And for me personally, and particularly, yes, I'm here in Atlanta, and so I'm still going to be covering Atlanta United. I'm here. I'll have more time now dedicated to that beat, and I plan on making the most of it and delivering even more work for Atlanta United's fans. At the same time, this allows me to kind of spread my wings a little bit and find stories across MLS that I think will be interesting for readers, both here in Atlanta and in other cities across the nation. So I think that's what's exciting for all of us that are part of this team at the Athletic Soccer, is that if we have a story that we want to chase, and it's not necessarily in our city, we can go for it. And at the same time, for me, who I've been covering Atlanta United since last June, and I've been doing it with a full-time job. And so I told myself since then, imagine if I had more time. Just imagine if I had more time, to write more stories, to be at training, and talk to the players and the coaches. And so now I have that opportunity, and I plan on really taking advantage of it. I can't wait.
Well, and it also gives you the opportunity to have quotes about, body parts being in places that they're not supposed to be when it comes to certain players having penalty kicks.
Right.
But now, and I will take absolutely no credit for any of this, considering that all of my soccer knowledge has rubbed off on you, considering we sit next to each other. And that was probably one of the shortest knowledge rub-offs ever in the history of knowledge sharing, with me sitting next to you when it comes to the sport. Obviously, for me, sitting next to you in the press box, getting to pick your brain and kind of get to see things in the three-dimensional way that you do. Let's go back to New England, and a game that was not played in a monsoon, was not played at Lake Ohio, should not have been stopped after 31 minutes. You actually got to see 90 minutes of action for a change. And you look at, and I'll just go with the lowest hanging fruit that we have here and talk about Ezequiel Barco, and everybody sitting there saying, that's the guy that we thought we were going to get from the absolute beginning. When you saw what Barquito was doing in Foxborough, what was running through your mind?
Well, I remember thinking that, Barco was the recipient, really, of overall better play from Atlanta United. And I think that's what all the players have been, saying, when they're asked about that, like, what's the best formation for this team? And why aren't you creating chances? They understand that they just have to hit that rhythm and find, perhaps, let's say it's a formation like 4 in the back that allows certain players to really take advantage of their roles within the formation. So that's what I wrote about it after New England. I think we tend to obsess over formations and back fours and back threes, and we forget about what's more important, and that's the personnel. And you can have a back four, you can have a back three, but the players on the field need to understand what they can do, and then at the same time they should be able to kind of step outside of the organizational structure that is a formation and do what they do just innately, really tap into their talent. So that's what we saw against New England is a team, not just, Barco, look at Tito. Tito had one of, he had kind of, for us, it's like a classic Tito Villalba type of performance, but for 2019 Villalba, it was somewhat of a, finger to the mouth, quieting the critics, that he's, only going to be coming off the bench. And I think that's because Frank de Boer put the players in a position to do that. And so I look at Barco and I see that he took advantage of someone like Michael Parkhurst playing at a right back position, essentially a wing back position, and getting up the field. That second goal, the golazo from Barco, who played Tito Villalba into the box? It was Parkhurst. And so he was up there, throughout the game, just fearless and really never was, caught out of position. And when New England were able to counter on Atlanta, and Atlanta had to kind of race back, I remember watching and thinking, this is fine. I think the players are used to this now. Before under Tata, it was like, whoa, we don't want to get countered. Now they understand that this is okay. This means that, we're playing, they're playing their game. So Ezequiel Barco, yes, he had somewhat of a breakout performance, but I think overall he was just one of those players that truly took advantage of the moment, the formation, and how he can really affect it, and someone like Joseph Martinez, showing that you don't always have to score goals to affect the game.
Now with Dallas coming in, it's 2 matches at Mercedes-Benz coming up with Dallas and Colorado, where I think pretty much everybody on this planet and a couple of other planets in the solar system are anticipating that while Dallas under Luchi Gonzalez is very pesky, should be a full points there, and then Colorado coming to town should be full points there. But let me get to Dallas here. Jason and I were talking in the previous segment, and here's where your national MLS-ness starts to come into play now that things are different.
Oh gosh,
we were talking about the Paxton Pomykal situation.
Yeah,
and where it was revealed he's out of contract at the end of the year, could sign a leave on a free. And Jason and I were thinking that with someone like Paxton Pomykal, this could be a situation where FC Dallas's thought patterns are challenged. It's like, okay, we might have to overpay to keep someone like a Paxton Pomykal in-house because of the short sample size of success that he's had in 2019. What are your early thoughts on something like that?
Yeah, it looks like it's going to be a learning moment for FC Dallas, a team that I think all of us, that cover MLS, that have been covering it for a while, just understand that they're one of those premier clubs as far as academy development, homegrown talent, bringing them up through the academy and getting them into the first team. That's great. Like, people will stand up and applaud FC Dallas for doing that. Now, the second part of that equation is the business side of the sport. It's signing contracts. It's making sure that players are not leaving on a free. And I think the club, now that's out in the open, it looks like, we may not know the full story, but it looks like it's like they skipped over that. They're so focused on, they have a new coach. They're focused on the academy. They're focused on that type of development, but you have to keep the players too, or at least have a long-term plan for your teenagers. And so I think this is going to be something that they'll learn from, and other academies, other clubs in MLS will make note of, that, we can't let this happen to us. Our prized possession, our kind of crown jewel of the academy, able to walk away, and we're left with nothing. So it's definitely something to keep an eye on. Props to Sam Stejskal for getting that out there, and FYI, he's joining the Athletic Soccer as well. So,
subtle plug, well played.
Throw that out there. That we have the talent. So, but that I heard you guys talking about it, and it's interesting that Paxton, let that out there, and it could have been strategic. It may have just come up in conversation because Sam asked him. So, but now it's out there, and now the club is going to have to quickly, make something happen. I would just say personally, I think he's a special player. I think, as Sam noted in the article, is that he still has a lot to prove, though. And I think every teenager in America still has a lot to prove often. I think a 19-year-old in Brazil or Argentina that, clubs are European clubs or even South American clubs are keeping their eyes on, have already played a lot of first team soccer. They've probably played Copa Lib also, and U20 tournaments and U17 World Cup. So this is different for the American teenager, that they're getting noticed after 7 or 8 games in MLS, and that's just not enough. So I would love to see him stay, and develop a little bit more. At the same time, if of course, all the players want to play at the highest level. Me personally, gosh, it would be great if not every young player went to Germany. Challenge yourself somewhere else. A technical player like him could land in Spain possibly, and play in a mid-table club, or even. I mean, I'm not going to say something like Barcelona. I saw the comparisons to De Jong. I think they're totally different players, but Spain, a league that really loves technical players like him, would be interesting for that type of prospect. So yes, looking forward to seeing him on Saturday and FC Dallas. I think that matchup against Atlanta will be crucial for Dallas. I think psychologically, how do they? This is what I've always thought about Dallas. Yes, I love watching them play. Luchi Gonzalez is a great coach. He's got them, really humming. They play well. They keep the ball on the ground. But how do they react in front of 50,000 opposing fans? Against the defending MLS champion, against some really bona fide league stars. How do they respond? How do they respond when they see the shirt, Atlanta United's crest and the star and all that? Like, this is that type of game where we'll be focused on tactics, but we're also going to have to look at the eyes of those players in Dallas. Are they overwhelmed by the moment, or do they just go out there and play?
I was going to ask how pesky a test you anticipated this being for Atlanta United going up against an FCD team that is young. And you mentioned getting the neck horizontality, and once you get past the idea of, wow, that's a rather large video board and you have 50,000 people screaming at you, I think it's a unique test for FCD. But how pesky do you think they'll be going up against an Atlanta United team where everyone's anticipating full points?
Yeah, they're a dangerous club. Didn't they beat LA, the Galaxy in LA? I'm pretty sure they did, and then they've kind of fallen off in other matches as well. So I think consistency is still something that they're working on. But yeah, they can break you down. A team that likes to keep the ball and has technical players throughout the field that are confident and kind of aware, especially a player like Paxton, but they have other players and they have speed up top. They can get you on a counter. And I think what'll be interesting is to see what Luchi Gonzalez does, like, from the start. Does he come out and play? Does he press Atlanta a little bit? Does he kind of concede possession and use this as kind of a teaching moment for his club as well? As like, hey, we don't always have to be, the protagonist in every match. And also on the flip side, what does Frank de Boer do? Was what we saw against New England, something that he'll change coming back home? Will he tinker again? Because that's what he's been doing a lot of in his his first matches as manager of Atlanta United. A lot of tinkering, and you can call out reasons why. They've had injuries, obviously, but I also think he's trying to see what works, and he may have found that that balance between tactical rigidity and some creative freedom. And I think that's what really suits this team. And if he, does he stick to that, he'll probably expect to have the ball a lot on Saturday. And so did they go back to, the kind of the methodical possession, expecting Dallas to be in a low block, or do they come out and press Dallas and expect and do a little bit of counter pressing so that they can kind of pick up some quick goals on the counter and then really control the match? That's something that I'll be looking for on Saturday as well.
All right. Last topic on the board, at least in the bullet points, and it's an off the field topic that we wanted to get your feedback on, and it's something that we've seen here at SDHHQ with the Atlanta United fan base, and in some pockets in Dallas and Houston and in Los Angeles. When it comes to the close your door. Come on now. or start your car, one of the two. I know this is the last time that we get to do this where you're inside the automobile. But
right.
When it comes to engaging the Latino community,
yes,
I think that this is something that is not uniform in the markets where it could apply and be an incredible positive for MLS. If you were, from your analysis and from what you've been able to glean, from a local perspective and possibly apply it forward, how best can the league better engage with the Latino community so you have all of these boats of all of these different nationalities working their way forward to enjoy the league, enjoy the players, and enjoy the sport?
Yeah, it's first of all, I appreciate the question. I appreciate you wanting to hear my point of view. I think that the league is improving in that sense, and I think they've taken notice of the demographic that continues to grow in this country, a demographic that loves soccer, and a demographic that is very different from what it may have been when this league started. Now it's not just first generation Hispanics and Latinos that are following Major League Soccer because it's the only league here. Now you have first, second, third generation. You have bicultural Latinos, English first speaking Latinos, men, women, kids, everyone that are interested in this sport and interested in following and getting to know the club in their city that they support. So I think MLS, from ever since I started to cover Atlanta United, I've gotten to know a lot of the communications people in MLS up in New York, a lot of the people that cover kind of the Latino side of this league, and they're great people. They're people that are doing a lot of great work. So that's going to continue. I think for someone like me, in my capacity, what can I do? And I think it's continue to reach out to the players that are here, that are Spanish speaking, that have stories to tell, and telling those stories. It's continuing to engage with fans, not only in Atlanta that are Latino and that I love to hear from and I love to engage with, but also hearing from them and what do they want to see? What do they want to hear about from their clubs? And from a club perspective, I think you look at a team like Chicago, and it's a pretty good strategy to go out and find a player that your community can relate to and that your community is going to want to come and see. And so Chicago, when they had Cuauhtemoc Blanco, they were filling the stadium. They were filling it. He was a big personality, a talented player. They've kind of gone away from that, and they've been very frugal with the way that they, approach signings. And so, you have to take the risks. You have to be out there and understand that there are people sitting at home on a Saturday probably wondering, I would love to go see a game, but I'm not interested in this team. I'm not interested in this player. And this is still a league that's growing, so it's okay for fans to be like, I am a fan of that player. I'm going to go buy his jersey and go watch him play, because a lot of the clubs are still building that culture, that fandom where, there aren't a lot of fans yet in MLS that that you see like in Argentina. Did you see the guy that celebrated Racing's championship recently in Argentina by digging up his grandpa's skull?
That was a dusty skull, sir.
Right, and taking it to the celebrations in the street. That is an extreme, okay, but that just tells you the level of passion that there is in other countries, and it's what MLS would love to eventually be part of. But in order to do that, yes, the Latino community here in the U.S. is one that continues to grow. They're getting savvier as far as the type of even the media that they consume and how they consume it, and as far as just being soccer savvy and having that acumen. Well, of course, we're born with this sport in our blood, so tap into it. I think Atlanta is a club that has done an excellent job in that area. I think they can still do probably a lot more in really reaching out to the Latino community here in Atlanta. So hopefully I can kind of help bridge that gap, not only here but across MLS.
Yeah, here in stoppage time in hour number 1, Soccer Down here, Felipe Cardenas of the Athletic hanging out with us. Then let me ask you this. What is the largest misconception that I think folks may have when it comes to the Latino community? And you mentioned the fever and the fervor that they have for the sport, but is there one misconception that I think that we all have to get past when it comes to embracing what the Latino community can bring to fandom and support of teams, regardless of sport? But I know obviously that soccer is what we're talking about here, but is there one misconception that we all just need to sit there and wad up that piece of paper and throw it in the garbage and sit there and say, nah, that doesn't work?
Excellent question. I'll say this, and I don't know if this is the answer, but that Latinos don't care about MLS. I think that that gets tossed around, because and listen, it's because a lot of us and we come from a household where we're probably following and really passionate about one particular team in another country, in Mexico or Colombia or Honduras or Argentina, whoever. Like that is like how we became fans, and MLS has kind of been like, oh, we've adopted a team. But that doesn't mean that Latinos that are getting into MLS or that have always been following MLS don't care about the league, don't care about the tactics, don't care about the players, don't care about the culture. I think you look at LAFC, and I mean, it's easy to say, oh, well, it's LA. It's LA. Of course, there's going to be Latino supporting the team, but they could have been like, I don't care about this. I only care about Chivas. I only care about America. And they've done a great job in bringing those fans together in order for them to believe in this new club. And so I think that's the one thing that ownership has to understand, that we're not, Latinos aren't just here in the States watching. Of course, Liga MX continues to trend up, and it's the like most highly rated league in the US, but they would, I think anyone with the opportunity to go to a stadium and support a team and support players that are good. Okay. I think that's the other thing. The product has to be good. I think they'll jump at that chance, the Latino community in the US, in any market, as long as the product is good. Look what Tata did. I mean, come on. Tata for me, I was like, I couldn't believe Atlanta got a guy like Tata Martino, and he was able to also connect with the fans in that way. So all those things come to play. You get it right. You get that recipe right, and they'll come support the team.
Yesterday on the show, we had a question that we put out there, and one of our listeners this morning brought it up as a broadcasting, like a broadcasting pet peeve. And is there one, and Herschel Skywalker this morning on Twitter, he says, soccer broadcasting pet peeve, describing a player hardworking as a grafter. It's such an ugly word. Also, when broadcasters suddenly pronounce Spanish or French names or words with a Spanish or French accent in Liga MX today. And he goes, oi. I will sit there and say that I know, I do too. and that's why I brought this up. And so now that Jason's come back here in hour 1 stoppage time, is there a broadcasting pet peeve of at Felipe Carr.
Yeah, like first of all, the thing about like saying, for instance, pronouncing my last name correctly is like Cardenas, but I don't introduce myself as, hello, my name is Felipe Cardenas. I mean, it depends on who I'm talking to. It depends on what my brain decides to do, honestly. Like when you have a bicultural brain, sometimes it just kind of goes off on its own. And so no, I that's kind of a funny one for me. I have a couple, and one is midfield cog. Oh gosh, like I don't want to hear that. I just don't want to hear that one. That one, like, it makes my skin crawl. And the other one, unfortunately, I don't really love the beautiful game. Oh my gosh, I know.
Gets overused.
I love the beautiful game. Obviously, I love where that came from. I love like Jogo Bonito from Brazil and all that. But yeah, like when everyone is just like the beautiful game, it's just like sometimes I'm like, come on, let's come on, don't patronize me. Do not
when
patronize
it's not
me.
beautiful. Like that's
exactly.
What's great about
it's
it.
not always
when
beautiful.
It's kind of nasty, and yeah, I'm cool with that too.
Yeah, so those are mine. That was a funny one. I was listening to that yesterday too. That was a good combo.
So Mastroeni would not be considered the beautiful game? The Colorado Rapids from a couple of years ago?
No
way.
But they were effective.
Mm-hmm. I mean, what does that mean? Is France the 2018 World Cup champions? Did they win the World Cup with beautiful soccer? I mean, no. They had some amazing performances, one against Argentina, and they have amazing players and talented players that can, play quote unquote the beautiful game. But they weren't out there just pinging people and dicing people up. It was a lot of counter, bunker counter, punish, and that's what won them the World Cup. So, even Brazil,
mm-hmm.
They're not always playing beautiful. So sometimes they're like, we're just going to kick you until you just quit. And so, and that is Brazil. Yes, go back, and this is a tough one for me. But go back and watch the quarterfinal of the 2014 World Cup, Brazil and Colombia. Oh, they just decided, you know what? We're just going to kick James until he can't play. So, okay, that happens too, and that's why soccer. Yes, it's not always beautiful. It isn't. Sometimes it's just who's tougher.
It does factor into it. It's absolutely part of it. Felipe, thanks, man, for the time. Thanks for such a long interview today, and congratulations on everything with the Athletic. I think other markets around the country are really going to benefit from what fans here in Atlanta have benefited from. You being able to open a door to have conversations, with players like Joseph and Miguel and Tito and allow fans to get to know them when maybe they wouldn't have in previous years. There's so many other players like that in the league that I'm sure you're going to introduce people to, and it's going to be a great thing for the game in this country.
Thank you. Thanks again, guys. I love joining the show on Thursdays, and I appreciate that, and I look forward to doing that. Like, I see it as this is kind of cheesy, but like I wake up at night thinking, what is my purpose? Like, it's not, for me, this isn't just a job. I truly love to do it. It's a passion. I pinch myself daily by being able to do this, but I do think about that too. Like, I have a role to play, and I can't wait to do it.
I'm excited to see when Tenorio unleashes you on Albert Ellis. That's the one I'm excited about.
It's coming.
Excellent. Thanks, Felipe. We appreciate it.
All right, guys. Take care.
We're going to take a quick break here, and we'll be right back after this.
Today's show is presented by Apelinsky and Associates, personal injury lawyers with over 30 years of experience, supporters of Atlanta United, Faction, and Inter-Atlanta Youth Football Club. If you've been hurt in a wreck, contact Steve today at steve@aa-legal.com or call in 24/7 at 404-377-9191. The initial consultation is free.
A ranger station.
I'd like to report a bear hug.
Okay.
I put out my campfire and Smokey Bear hugged me.
So you drowned the fire, you stirred it, drowned it again, and felt that it was cold?
Uh-huh.
Yeah, but he's just letting you know you did good.
Bear hug from Smokey Bear. Status update.
I'm gonna let you go now. There are many ways to start a fire, but one sure way to put it out. Learn how you can do your part at SmokeyBear.com.
Sponsored by the U.S. Forest Service Ad Council and your state forester.
We know that every driver is different, and a one-size policy does not fit all. That's why Country Financial offers a variety of discounts, so you get the coverage you need and the savings you deserve. From good driver to good student, multi-policy to multi-car, we've got a discount to suit every driver. Call Jason Wright at 678-568-6871 today to see what you could save. On Facebook at Jason Wright Agency or by phone at 678-568-6871. Discounts vary by state. Policies issued by Country Mutual Insurance Company, Country Preferred Insurance Company, or Country Casualty Insurance Company, Bloomington, Illinois.
Every hiring manager knows that a company is only as good as the people it's made from. So where do you find the best people? That may surprise you.
Meet the grads of life. Young adults of unique determination and experience. An ideal fit for your company in an entry-level position, internship, or even mentorship. They might not have every qualification you typically look for, but they're exactly who your company needs.
This is talent worth knowing about.
Go to gradsoflife.org to learn how to find, cultivate, and train this great pool of untapped talent. Brought to you by the Ad Council and gradsoflife.org.
Welcome back. Soccer Down here. Thanks again to Felipe Cardenas of The Athletic for giving us some insight on lots of different things. I know, and I've already seen some Atlanta fans not happy that Felipe's sole focus is not going to be Atlanta United, but I do think his role is going to have a huge impact on this league. Sounds kind of weird for a reporter at a non-league outlet to have that type of potential. I really think he does, and this was something that we talked about after stoppage time yesterday, myself and Jimmy Vance and Mena, about how it's felt like Major League Soccer has not completely embraced the Latino community and Spanish language communications, and to the point that they kind of share content with Univision Deportes instead of generating their own Spanish language content. And then the flip side is, you're not seeing as many in-depth profiles and talk about the players who don't speak English comfortably. We've seen it here, and we've seen the benefit of it. And I don't think that's been the case around the league. So when Felipe was announced as full-time with The Athletic, I was really excited about that. As somebody who, really enjoys the Latin game, wishes I spoke Spanish, trying to get better at it, trying to speak, whatever opportunities I have to speak it better, but also just have had a lifelong appreciation of that side of the game. And I felt like it's been disconnected from the general English language coverage of the sport in this country. And I think that's going to change. And I really do think Felipe is going to have a big hand in that. It's a huge opportunity. So I'm excited to see what comes of it. Let's get into the MLS Fantasy update for the week. You have the one game already under the belt. So if you are looking at guys to get on a double week, hopefully you picked correctly from Vancouver and LAFC. LAFC will get another chance. They do play Seattle, and that's one of the big games of the weekend. But let's get the update from Jason Wright, commissioner of the league. Jason Wright Agency. Make sure you're checking them out for all of your insurance needs, whether personal or business. Jason Wright, AGEN on Twitter. Jason Wright Agency on Facebook. The Open League, Holly Springs FC had the best week last week, 131 points. Haven't heard from Holly Springs FC just yet. That was good enough for 7th overall in the Atlanta United official league. For Whom the Bellow Tolls, which is another one we haven't heard from. That's a good one. They were level on 126 points last week with my favorite, Don't Var Me Bro. 126 for them, 5 points off of Holly Springs for the best results for the week. Open League standings, Joseph Martinez uses the Oxford comma. The commissioner has confirmed it's a female, and they're dominating everybody. FC Apogee, very particular set of skills. I think they might have rebranded their name. Okay. Interesting. They're number 2. Soccer-specific fantasy team is number 3. Pro Rel League standings, you got 2 teams, 6-0-1 on 18 points. Soccer-specific fantasy team and Port City FC. 3 teams with 5 wins, 15 points. Darren Eel's Dream Team, Joseph Better than CR7, and the Commission's team, the Jason Wright Agency. Your key matches in the Pro Rel League this week, Holly Springs FC, who had a great week last week, facing Joseph better than CR7. That's an interesting one. Holly Springs maybe coming on strong here as the season gets into full focus. Darren Neal's Dream Team versus Don't Var Me Bro, and the Black Hall Bombers versus Port City FC, because Port City FC needs another loss if he's going to play the heel. PCFC, because, Jason Wright agency. Jason Wright maybe a little upset with Port City being so good in this league. Understandable. Some notes for the week. We mentioned the double game week. Hopefully you got lucky there. The main point was you needed to lock those guys in. So you can't change those guys. If you started Vancouver or LAFC players, you're locked in for their game 2. And Vancouver goes to Orlando. Tough trip for them. LAFC has a tough battle with Seattle. I don't think the double match week for those two was really all that beneficial. And I hope you didn't plan on it that way, because both of them have really tough second legs in their 2-game week. Let's look around the league at the other matches as we talk fantasy. Cincinnati hosting Real Salt Lake. That's a Friday night 7:30 match. Salt Lake is so hard to predict. Cincinnati has, I think, shored things up. They are going to sit a little bit more. They're not going to open things up in a huge way. There's not anybody who jumps out to me in this one.
No.
This is one that I'm really not sure where it's going to go.
No, although KFC did say that they feel like Paxton Pomykal and Damir Krylock may appear in the same time travel thriller.
Well, there's that. I mean, sure. But I don't know if Krylock's going to appear on the top of the fantasy list this week, so I don't know if that helps you. He's got 2 goals on the season. Toronto and Minnesota is Friday night, 8 o'clock from BMO Field. Let's see. Josie Altidore has been hot. Minnesota, better defensively, not exactly great. There's questions about Iko Para's availability this week. Josie Altidore would be a strong play. Alejandro Pozuelo would be a strong play. He has 4 assists so far after missing the first few matches this season. He's got an assist in every match with Toronto. Quentin Westberg played against Seattle. Not sure if he'll be back between the sticks or if it'll be Bono. On the Minnesota side, I mean, they scored 3 at home against NYC. They conceded 3. I like Toronto attackers in this one.
Yeah, I have Pozuelo as a part of my roster. Of course, I also had Walker Zimmerman as a part of my roster, and a Rossi Vela 4-4-2 up top.
You were risking it.
Well, and that was, I mean, and I'm also thinking down the line of locking them in at the salary figures that they're at, so I don't have to double back, get them later when Vela's punching a 15 and Rossi's at a 12. I mean, I can, if I lock them in at that point now, then I'll take it.
There is part of that strategy as well. Galaxy hosting Houston Dynamo late. Zlatan's been scoring lots of goals. He's always a figure you have to consider in these types of matches. And at home, pretty good spot for Zlatan to get the captain's armband on your fantasy team. I would look at some Dynamo players as well. I think there's good values there. And with all the injuries for LA defensively, Albert Ellis, he scored in 3 straight. Mara Manotas assisted on both goals in the win over San Jose. Dynamo's won 4 straight. Manotas has 4 assists over the last 3. This could be a high-scoring one.
And that's the big thing for me is that, you know, I think that with Houston, to your point, I know that a lot of folks were looking at Memo as possible value. But do you grab Elise and put him up top? You know, do you have Zlatan and Elise? That way you sit there and you get points from both sides. You know, that is another distinct possibility up top. So for me, if that would have probably been a secondary play for me, is to know that this game could go through the roof and, you know, be FIFA 19 and put the captain's armband on Zlatan. So yeah, that was one of the other ideas that I had. But of the teams that we've had so far, I've got Vela, Rossi, Zimmerman, and Pozuelo with more to come.
Yeah, we'll see. Maybe don't listen to John. That might be the advantage you need to try to find.
For real?
Maybe just don't listen to what he's doing with his team in this segment.
Take the opposite attack.
Yes. Philadelphia, Montreal, 1 o'clock on Saturday in Philly. This is an interesting one. So Philly's coming off of a loss on the road at the Galaxy. Montreal has been stringing the clean sheets together. They haven't been scoring a lot, but they've been stringing those clean sheets together 3 straight. Evan Bush, strong possibility as a goalkeeper. Montreal defenders, Daniel Lovitz would be the one that I'd probably jump on the most because he might contribute to the attack. I like Montreal defense here. Although Philadelphia at home, they don't score a ton of goals. This is a tough one. I think it's going to be a low-scoring 1-0, 1-1 kind of game. Could be 1-0 either way. I just think Montreal's on a nice little run of form. I think they're going to make life difficult for Philly. I think Montreal gets the win on the road.
Yeah, I thought just because of the lack of offense that it might be a shared result, like something 1-1-ish. But yeah, Lovitz was an idea that I had as a part of my plan, but he is not a part of my plan, so pick Lovitz.
There you go. 1 o'clock Eastern, Chicago hosting Colorado at SeatGeek Stadium in Bridgeview, Illinois. Another one. Feels like a low-scoring one. Although Chicago... Let's see. Nikolic has got goals in his last 2. He had a penalty. Colorado.
I've got McCarty here.
Why McCarty?
It was more of a salary fit than anything else.
Yeah, don't do that. There's better... To me, I mean, I just don't think Dax McCarty really contributes a whole lot to your fantasy line. I mean, they don't value holding midfielders very well in fantasy. And... I think you could probably find a better salary fit with more upside. Just my 2 cents.
Kenny Safe going up against RSL?
If you're talking salary at the same, I think Safe has more potential to get you points than McCarty. Just because attacking is valued.
You're looking at, for me, it would be Schweinsteiger, Shatkovsky, Safe, Royer, Artur against Portland. That's the salary block that I'm looking at. Katai.
Alexander Katai is always capable of something spectacular, and I do think Chicago gets the win here. I don't think they score a ton, but I do think they get the win. If I'm looking at Chicago players, I'm definitely going Katai over McCarty for fantasy perspective. If you want to look at a wild card, maybe you want to look at Nicholas Mesquita from Colorado. Got his first assist of the season. A tricky little player, and Chicago does have some breakdowns at times. Mesquita could be a player that could hurt him. I'd stay away from it unless I had to. I'd go Chicago here. Orlando hosting Vancouver, 3 o'clock Saturday. Vancouver's got the tough travel. They're coming off of a win. They've got some confidence. Orlando, who knows? They're all over the place. Nani's got 3 goals this season. Scored all of them over the last 2 games. 3 goals, 4 assists. If you're looking at Orlando players, Nani would be the one you would look at, although he's pretty expensive. Beyond that, I'm staying away from this game. Don't want any part of it.
Nope.
No part of it.
I will be buzzing past that game as a part of my viewing habits.
Yeah. We'll get into Atlanta and Dallas a little deeper after this in the next segment. But from a fantasy perspective, it's a tough call. I don't think there's going to be a clean sheet either way. I think both teams get forward well enough to find the back of the net. So I wouldn't be looking at defenders. It's your usual suspects. I mean, and you're always considering Joseph in games like this. Tito with 2 assists last week. You got to look at him. For Dallas, David Ferreira scored 2 goals. He's got 2 in the last 3 games. Reto Ziegler for a defender who scores goals. He's leading their team in goals. He's got 2 on penalties. He's got a 3rd from a free kick. 3 goals this year. Maybe you're looking at him. If you are looking at a defender who can get you some goals, Ziegler might be that guy. He scored against Atlanta last year. Nightcaps on Saturday. New England hosting the Red Bulls. This is another one I would stay away from. I just have no idea what's going to happen in this one.
Yeah, I mean, when we were going briefly just over the salary cap thing. I was looking specifically at Red Bulls players. New England players were not even in my thought pattern at all. So
you work on the road. I don't know why you're looking at Red Bulls players either. We don't know about Kaku. We have no idea there. I mean, maybe Red Bulls defenders, just because New England, has such a tough time getting chances for their attacking players. But I'd stay far away from this one. I think there's other games that there's more obvious picks. If I had to take somebody in this game, I would probably take Aaron Long. That would be my one. But I'd run from it. Don't even look at it too hard.
Nope.
Next one, Columbus hosting Portland. Caleb Porter against his former team. Columbus at home. You have to like Columbus in this one. Zach Steffen's a possible play. Columbus defenders are possible plays.
I've got Francis here.
Yeah, that's not a bad one for an outside back who does get forward and contribute to the attack. He could definitely be an interesting one here. I don't know about Higuain. I feel like Portland will try to do everything possible to take him out of it. But yeah, I think Columbus gets the win probably with a couple of goals, maybe one or two. And Francis is actually a good play. Francis or Mensah, Steffen's possible. Zardes getting something, maybe off a set piece, that's possible too.
Mensah is right now at an 8.5 in the salary cap league. And for me, because I went with Francis because Francis is at 6.7.
Yeah, that's a better play. Mensah's riskier, doesn't get as much going forward unless it's a set piece or something. Nighttime, 10 o'clock, San Jose hosting Sporting Kansas City. San Jose is still figuring out what they're doing here. It's better. Things are looking better. They're not where Almeida wants them to be. Sporting Kansas City, probably a little angry. They're rested now, too. I like Kansas City players into this one. I like Kansas City attacking players in this one. You can really take your pick. Johnny Russell's the most obvious play. He's probably one of the most expensive plays, too. Ilya's not going to be attacking very much, though, and that's the thing. I mean, it's not, to me in fantasy, it's not just looking at a salary number that's good. It's what they do. Ilya doesn't necessarily pick up many goals and assists. Now, other things do affect their overall performance, but goals and assists are your main drivers here, or clean sheets. And I don't know if I'd go Ilya here. Russell's got 4 goals this year, all over the last 4 games. Zusi got his first assist of the season last week. Nemeth has been up and down. Maybe he's one I'd stay away from. Busio scored in 3 straight.
Yeah.
So you've got some possibilities on Kansas City. I would look at Kansas City players here. I think it's like a 3-1 kind of win for them.
I've got Sinovic and Melia right now.
I don't know if I would go. I think there's other defenders and goalkeepers I'd look at before this one, because San Jose is just so frantic the way they play. They are prone to score some goals. So I don't know if I'd go hard on Kansas City defense, but I just think there's better options defensively around the league in this one. And I think San Jose could get a goal out of some chaos. So just a thought. Sunday, 4 o'clock, it's DC hosting NYC. This is an intriguing one. Valentin Castellanos, there's questions about him after his head injury in Minnesota. He did get his second goal in MLS last weekend. Is Hebert ready to give you a start here? We don't know yet. We'll know more a little today. This is the kind of day on a Thursday where you really need to listen to what the managers are saying in their media availability, because you might pick up some nuggets about guys who are questionable for the weekend. I have questions about Castellanos. I have questions about Maxi Morales, who had been injured coming into the match. He did play against Minnesota. How's he doing? Can Hebert give you a start? On the DC side, Lucas Rodriguez had an assist. Luciano Acosta scored his second goal of the year last week. 3-2 game in Colorado for them last week. They're back home. I think DC's the favorite. But this is a tough one to call. I think there's goals in it. I think there's goals potentially in it both ways. I don't see either team with a 0 on the board at the end of it.
No, I was looking at this as as something 2-1-ish, 3-2-ish, probably I had DC winning, and so I was leaning 2-1 when we started talking about it. So that's, I guess, how I was kind of thinking that was going to play out.
And in the final one, LAFC, second game of the week, hosting Seattle, 7 o'clock, FS1. It's your game of the weekend. Two of the top teams in the Western Conference. We'll see what pressure is on LAFC after other results happen during the weekend. They'll be a little tired. Seattle will come in fresh. Both teams have been pretty explosive going forward. I would not touch a defender in this match. I would not touch a goalkeeper in this match. Your LA players are locked in. On the Seattle side, it's your usual suspects. It's Nicholas Ladero. I think you do have to look at Will Bruin, who had 2 goals against Toronto. We don't know about Raul Ruidiaz yet. Bruin would be a cost-effective play up top, and this seems like a play where he could get you some goals surprisingly.
Yeah, and for someone who has already locked in Zimmerman, Rossi, and Vela, I had a couple of things in play with that. For me, I'm just looking forward to sitting down and watching this one and knowing full well that I have jettisoned both Chad Marshall and Leardom for this week. Did not even have them as a part of my thought pattern. Wanted to go with LAFC offense just as a longer term play so I could lock in who I've locked in. And maybe Walker Zimmerman may actually play in this one.
Yeah, it's possible. You're hoping so.
Yes, I am.
We'll see if it happens. We'll see if it's good for him to play in this one because Seattle could put some goals up too. It's going to be a busy fantasy week. Lots of games, lots of stuff to keep an eye on. Check out what managers say today in media availability, and you might want to be quick on the trigger when lineups get posted an hour before kick. There's going to be some questionable decisions that you might have to take a risk on, and you want to see if a guy is in the lineup. So be ready an hour before kick to potentially change some of your lineups. And it's an hour before kick at all different ones. Remember, like if you can make changes as long as that team hasn't already played. So you've got some potential plays. And that Seattle game being last, that does give you an out. If you've got a guy that you're like, maybe I want to play this guy on Saturday, maybe, oh, no, they didn't make the lineup. All right, now I'm going to go pick up Will Bruin. Or now I'm going to go pick up Nicholas Ladero if you can fit him in, that type of stuff. So keep an eye on it. It's going to be a fun week of fantasy. Thanks to Jason Wright Agency for sponsoring our fantasy leagues. And good luck this weekend to all of you playing. May you all beat Don't Far Me, Bro.
And,
don't get far.
Yes, and for the record, here's what I have. Rossi Vela safe, Barco Pozuelo Bucio, Zimmerman, Ziegler, Long, Francis, Stefan in net with a bench of Shinyashiki, Alvarez, Wynn, and Vega.
We'll see. There's a few that I'm kind of wondering about there, but we'll see how it plays out. Let's take a break here. Let's talk a little Atlanta and Dallas right after this.
Today's show is presented by Apelinsky & Associates, personal injury lawyers with over 30 years of experience, supporters of Atlanta United, Faction, and Inter-Atlanta Youth Football Club. If you've been hurt in a wreck, contact Steve today at steve@aa-legal.com or call in 24/7 at 404-377-9191. The initial consultation is free.
A ranger station.
I'd like to report a bear hug.
Okay.
I put out my campfire and Smokey Bear hugged me.
So you drowned the fire, you stirred it, drowned it again, and felt that it was cold?
Uh-huh.
Yeah, but he's just letting you know you did good.
Bear hug from Smokey Bear. Status update.
I'm gonna let you go now. There are many ways to start a fire, but one sure way to put it out. Learn how you can do your part at SmokeyBear.com.
Sponsored by the U.S. Forest Service Ad Council and your state forester.
We know that every driver is different, and a one-size policy does not fit all. That's why Country Financial offers a variety of discounts, so you get the coverage you need and the savings you deserve. From good driver to good student, multi-policy to multi-car, we've got a discount to suit every driver. Call Jason Wright at 678-568-6871 today to see what you could save. on Facebook at Jason Wright Agency, or by phone at 678-568-6871. Discounts vary by state. Policies issued by Country Mutual Insurance Company, Country Preferred Insurance Company, or Country Casualty Insurance Company, Bloomington, Illinois.
Every hiring manager knows that a company is only as good as the people it's made from. So where do you find the best people? That may surprise you.
Meet the grads of life. Young adults of unique determination and experience. An ideal fit for your company in an entry-level position, internship, or even mentorship. They might not have every qualification you typically look for, but they're exactly who your company needs.
This is talent worth knowing about.
Go to gradsoflife.org to learn how to find, cultivate, and train this great pool of untapped talent. Brought to you by the Ad Council and gradsoflife.org.
Welcome back. Soccer Down here, April 18th, Thursday Thoughts edition of the show. We'll get into some of your Thursday thoughts as we go. But Atlanta, Dallas, that's the big match on Saturday. It's on ESPN. John, what questions do you have about Dallas coming to town?
Just more than anything, I want to see how the youth is progressing when it comes to what Luchi Gonzalez has been able to put out there. And for me, it's what we got into with Felipe, and getting past that first block of time where you sit there and you realize that you've got a bunch of kids who are playing in front of 45,000 or what have you, and seeing how they respond to an environment that I don't think that they've been in so far this year.
No, they haven't. Quite a few of these players were part of the squad that came here in 2017 in the first Atlanta United match at Mercedes-Benz Stadium in history. So you've got a lot of guys who have been here before, but you've got some new guys who are seeing the field more. A guy like Pomacall, we've talked a lot about him. You look at Jesus Ferreira, another one who up top, having a great run to start. He's got a couple goals and an assist. He was a homegrown signing in November of 2016, but he hadn't really broken through until this year, and he's taken advantage of the injury to Dominic Badji and pouncing on it. He's MLS Team of the Week this week. You've got some other guys, and I want to see what the midfield looks like. Edwin Cerrillo was a homegrown signing in February. He had committed to play in college at Maryland, signed a homegrown deal, and he's got 4 starts under his belt at 18 years old. Brandon Cervania has a couple of minutes played this season at 19. Thomas Roberts, 17, got a start. It's a young group overall, but then you have your guys like Carlos Grueso at 23, one of the veterans. His 4th year in Dallas, 23 years old. He's a veteran in this team. Matt Hedges. Matt Hedges is the old man of this group.
Yes.
Guys have been around at 29. It's his 8th year with Dallas. Reto Ziegler, 33. It's a great center back pairing with Hedges and Ziegler. Both 7 starts, both 630 minutes played. That's your backbone. So your young guys who might be a little bit like, oh, wow, this is huge. This is a big deal. It's going to be Hedges. It's going to be Ziegler. And to a lesser extent, it's going to be a guy like Grueso who help set the tone and calm everybody down and get them back to playing the way that Dallas wants to play.
Then for me from Atlanta, really it's more of an intangible, and it has to do with maintaining the momentum that you gathered. And I know that, is the starting lineup going to look the same as it did in New England for that match? Is it tweaked? What are the tweaks, if there are any? I know that we have the Remedi injury that we have to think about, obviously, and we don't have an update on Julian Gressel yet. But
Gressel's fine. I don't know where that concerns come from. He got scraped on the outside of the knee.
Yeah.
He's going to play.
So for me, it's Remedi. Does that mean that it's Lorenowitz in the middle, or what's the starting 11 looking like when it comes to filling the Eric Remedi spot? Because I'm not counting on Remedi, because I want to treat the concussion with the amount of respect it deserves. And I know that, when you're dealing with something like that, and you have spoken eloquently about concussions and their effects and when they can come up and and really get to you. It could be something that happens day of. Vermetti's wobbly, and you have to make a decision. So obviously going to err on the side of caution if you're Atlanta United, so I'm not counting on him as even being in the 18. What does the middle look like, and how does Frank de Boer address that for this match?
Well, Vermetti not out yet with the first team training, according to Doug Robertson from the AJC, Chris Furmeister from Pro Soccer USA. He's day-to-day, and, I mean, that's the description of what a concussion injury is. It is the complete definition of what a day-to-day injury is. So there's really no timeline. If he's not training today, if he hasn't been training this week, I don't see him playing on Saturday. It has to be Jeff Larinowitz replacing him. You don't have another true number 6 to factor in there. You just don't. Now, how does it look around him? Okay, you don't have the two more defensively minded guys, so I think that means Darlington Nagbe becomes a priority here because he can give you a box-to-box game. But who's the other one? Is it Gressel coming inside to give you two box-to-box guys? Is it Barco playing as a true number 10, as we saw after he came in New England? I'm kind of leaning that way. I think you want Barco on the ball here because both teams are going to be battling for possession. Dallas is a team that wants to build up out of the back. Atlanta is a team that wants to build up out of the back. Both want a lot of possession. Great piece over in Dallas at the Dallas Morning News from John Townsend. 600 is your magic number for Dallas. They're trying to get to 600 passes in every match. It's not a stupid goal that you're going to like sit and pass 20 times back and forth to get there. It's what you're trying to get through the way you play. And that's where you're at. That means you're trying to dominate possession. Atlanta hasn't, talked about a number like that, but that's what you're looking for is dominating possession. Only one team can do that. So who's going to do it in this one? Who's going to be the first one to either change willingly in the way they play or have to change because they can't get their foot on the ball? Game like this where you're battling for possession, I think Nagbe and Barco can be critical in the middle. You want both of them on the ball a lot. If they can start to dominate possession, I think Dallas has more problems dealing with that than Atlanta. I think Dallas, being a little bit younger, still trying to truly get this identity under Luchi Gonzalez down, they're going to have problems if they can't do what they come in to do. I feel like Atlanta, and especially as battle-tested this season as this group is, having to deal with CONCACAF, having to deal with a match like Monterrey where you were struggling to get your foot on the ball in a lot of moments in it. You can adjust a little bit better if you have to play that way. I want to see who does dominate possession, though. Back to the original question, I think Jeff Larinowitz has to come in. I think it's Larinowitz, Nagbe, Barco as your three central midfielders to deal with probably a midfield trio, a triple pivot in Dallas of Grueso, of Cerrillo, and Pomacall. Cerrillo, the 18-year-old, has generally played as the deeper of the three. Grueso had played that role previously, but he was more of the box-to-box against Portland in their last match. And Pomacall is a player who is probably better as an 8 or a 10, but he can sit and drop as well. So you've got three well-rounded central midfielders from Dallas. I think you're going to have three pretty well-rounded central midfielders from Atlanta. And whichever trio controls the match, I think leads their team to a win.
Couple of thoughts on the Twitters. Eichmann says that all I know is Barco better be starring at the 10 spot. And Kefsi, with a Thursday thought, wanting to know, is Jesse Gonzalez still sharing time in goal? Seems like he's gotten more consistent starts this year. Is that part of their stability thus far?
Yeah, Gonzalez 6 starts. I don't know if it's part of the stability, but it's just Jesse Gonzalez at 23 years old, coming into his own. It's you have a guy like Jimmy Maurer, a seasoned veteran originally from Lawrenceville, who was going to push him and make Gonzalez work hard to keep that spot. But Jesse Gonzalez is one of the top goalkeepers under the age of 25 in this league and in this country. So he should be getting these starts. He should be earning these starts, and performances have been pretty good. I mean, he's 33, 22, and 18 in his career. At 23 to have 73 starts under his belt, that's pretty good. Still prone to make kind of a big mistake here and there, and that's something he needs to get out of his game. But Gonzalez is the guy. And going back to Eichmann and his comment, if it's not Barco starting as the 10, to me, that's a sign that Atlanta is going to do things a little bit differently and maybe sit a little bit deeper and soak up pressure and play on the counter. If it's Gressel and Nagbe with Lorenowitz in a midfield trio, I think that's a group that is going to look not completely like they did in the postseason last year, but similar, where they're going to sit a little bit deeper, let Dallas have some of the ball, and try to pick them off in the middle third or in the defensive third and break quickly. If it's Barco as the 10, I think you're going to say, no, we want to dominate possession and make Dallas play differently.
And all of our discussions on Paxton Pomykal, Sam Stejskal has come out with a statement.
Okay.
Correction. Pomakal's not out of contract after the season. Dallas has options on him for both 20 and 21. Apologies for the error.
Well, no wonder nobody's really worried about it. There you go. So go back, if you're listening to this on the podcast or if you've listened so far live, go back and delete most of the first hour.
Scrub most of the first hour.
Kind of a big, important thing there. Look, it happens. Option years, they have control on him. They are going to have to figure out what to do long term, because this is a guy that I think you do want to build around. And I think he's a guy, too, that is comfortable where he's at. He's very comfortable with Luchi Gonzalez. You could just tell that from the interview. He's the kind of guy, and I think Luchi Gonzalez kind of has the mentality. Remember when Carlos Carmona came in, and we talked a lot about Carmona and being a central midfielder from that generation of Chilean midfielders that came to the national team, when Bielsa was there and then Sampaoli. Central midfielders that, all of them had their own individual characteristics, but they were trained to be able to play as a 6, as an 8, or as a 10. They could do all of the things in the middle of the field that you needed. Pomakal's that kind of guy, and that's a very valuable kind of player, and he can do whatever the match calls for, and he can adjust in midstream. So, okay, Dallas has the options. That's great. They do need to figure out long-term what the future is going to be for Pomakal, if they're going to try to keep him long-term, or if the European offers are going to come in. What's the price tag? How much is it going to take? But that's a very good thing for them that they do have those options, because otherwise it was looking pretty bad.
Eichmann has basically what looks like a 4-2-3-1 in his mind. Joseph, Tito, Barco, Gressel, Nagbe, Larry. Then his back four is Breck, LGP, Miles, and either Parkey or Escobar. What do you think of the back?
I think it's 4 in the back. The biggest question is Escobar, and it's almost impossible to make a prediction until we know. If Escobar can start, he's starting, period. If he can get you deep into the second half, he is your starter. He's on the right side. Then the question is, do you get squirrely on the left with Parkhurst sliding over to the left, or do you go simple with Breck Shea? I think it's Robinson and LGP in the middle. I think it's those two in the middle for now, and Parkhurst maybe fills a need on either side. But if Escobar's ready to go, he's your third starter locked in.
And I'm trying to see if there's any other lineup-y thoughts. Not at the moment. So I think the discussion about lineup, I think it was pretty much locked into the Remedi discussion, and then what you do at the back. I think those are probably the two questions that most folks have when it comes to United going up against FCD this weekend.
Well, we'll take our final break here. We'll come back, wrap everything up. Final call for questions on a Thursday Thought. Send them our way out on Twitter @SoccerDownHere. Some other little news and notes from the world of soccer to get into. Hang out with us. We'll be right back.
As a business owner, you know that every year brings new challenges and opportunities. The success of your business demands expertise and focus. And Country Financial can help you keep that focus by helping ensure you have the right insurance protection in place to meet your goals. Jason Wright can help you create a customized insurance plan that has coverages designed just for your business. Give Jason a call at 678-568-6871 or reach him on Facebook at Jason Wright Agency. Coverages vary by state. Policies issued by Country Mutual Insurance Company, Bloomington, Illinois.
Got issues with youth or high school sports? Positive Coaching Alliance can help. PCA is a national nonprofit working to transform youth and high school sports so that every child has a positive character-building youth sports experience. PCA provides live and online workshops to train double-goal coaches whose first goal is winning and whose second, more important goal is teaching life lessons through sports. PCA also has workshops for parents and high school student athletes. For more information, please visit positivecoach.org.
If you've been hurt in a car wreck, contact my friend Steve Apolinski of Apolinski and Associates. He's been representing individuals for over 30 years throughout Georgia and Alabama. Email him at steve@aa-legal.com or call him 24/7 at 404-377-9191. The initial consultation is free.
I adopted Bento in 2010 from a shelter. This cat makes me make art. He's always motivating me to draw pictures of him. He just is motivating artistically. He's my best friend, but a lot of people know him as Keyboard Cat.
Keyboard Cat, YouTube star and shelter pet. Amazing adoption stories start in shelters. Start yours today. Visit theshelterpetproject.org to find a pet near you. Brought to you by Maddie's Fund, the Humane Society of the United States, and the Ad Council.
Welcome back. Final segment, SDH on a Thursday. Getting ready for the weekend. Atlanta hosting Dallas. We'll have more on that tomorrow with Doug Robertson from the AJC, with Mike Conti. We'll also have more on the NWSL as they get ready for the rest of week 2 with our friend Mitch Northam from Pro Soccer USA. He was at the Courage 5-0 win last night, so we'll pick his brain a little bit on where the defending champs stand. Was it as good as it looked on paper with 30 shots against Orlando? We have another incident. We'll get into – I've got a couple questions for John about the way Champions League played out yesterday, and we'll talk about that. Big, broad questions, not so much about Tottenham and Manchester City specifically, but Hanover 96 tweeted out earlier this morning about an hour ago now. Chris Gloucester, who came over to Hanover from the New York Red Bulls, young American U23. U23s had a match yesterday at VfB Lübeck. Chris Gloucester was racially abused on the road and translated, the tweet was in German, translated he was abused due to his skin color and called monkey. It has been officially reported to the German Federation. Again, it's ridiculous. It's stupid. It's got to stop. And I am completely with what Gareth Southgate said after the issues that England had in Montenegro. Punishment has to be part of it. It can't be all of it. There has to be an educational component that this is not okay. And this club, Lübeck, should have to have their fans, their season ticket holders, their supporters groups in for whether it's counseling, whether it's educational seminars. I don't know. Sensitivity training is what it gets called a lot of times. That has to be part of this, because this is just too often we have to have this conversation, and it has to be had. It has to be had. It can't just be brushed under the rug. It has to change, and this game has an opportunity to be part of that change, and I hope it takes full advantage. Punishment has to be a big part too. That you can't just say this is bad, slap on the wrist, here's a fine. there has to be a strong punishment. There has to be an especially strong punishment for repeat offenders, and there has to be an educational component, or it's not going away.
Yeah, and you continue to see these incidents pop up. Sadly, I'm not surprised when they do. And I would hit these teams as hard as I can, however it can be done. But to your point and to Southgate's point, there has to be an educational idea associated with it. And for me, though, knowing how folks respond or don't respond in these situations, I think that if you have fan bases, supporters groups, season ticket holders, whoever's found responsible, if they don't show up for these things, then I think that you revoke their season tickets. I think 100%. That you revoke their place in that fan group's society. If you're a part of it, if you're a part of the problem and you're not a part of the solution, then you don't get to be here anymore.
100%.
And you bring in people who can appreciate what's going on and who want to move the game forward and who want to sit there and appreciate everyone who's performing, regardless of skin color, nationality, origin, all those kinds of things. And you can't move the game forward until you have that first team that steps up and says, okay, we're going to have, empty stadia, whatever. All you're doing is hitting somebody in the pocketbook.
We've done fines. We've done point deductions. We've done empty stadia. All that stuff's happened. This is happening at a greater degree of it being brought to the public eye. And has it happened before? Absolutely.
Yep.
It didn't get talked about as much before. It was either swept under the rug or you didn't have social media that could blast this out. I love that Hanover tweeted this out from a club account and made it very public and very clear. And it has to be addressed in a big way going forward at the different levels of the game. And, you're talking about next steps. Yes, the educational component has to be part of it. Stronger penalties have to be part of it. But you're also going to get to a point where it's going to take a major club in a major match walking off the field when this stuff happens.
Yep. I think so.
And it's going to take something like that as well. So it's coming to the forefront, which honestly is a good thing because it's not going to change if it doesn't. So Chris Gloucester, U.S. Youth International, racially abused in Germany yesterday, and his club, Hanover 96, has brought that up very publicly to hopefully try to affect some of that change, and we'll see what happens going forward. Also yesterday in Europe, you had Champions League, and VAR, I think, became a huge part of the discussion in the Champions League. For the first time at this type of stage, it's been there. We've had some issues, but this was the big debut for VAR on the Champions League stage. Two big incidents. Tottenham goal allowed to stand, and Manchester City goal that would have put them through, taken back for offside. Every time VAR happens in a new area, you get the comments like, oh, it was so much better when you had the emotional reaction and it stood, and now you don't know if a goal's going to stand or not. I disagree with that take so vociferously because you want to get it right. It needs to be right. And I'm not going to say, well, let calls be incorrect because I want a celebration. I just think you're missing the point. And it's not going away. VAR's not going anywhere now. The genie's out of the bottle. You're not putting that thing back in. So no. I do have issues when it is handled incorrectly. And we've talked about that here in Major League Soccer. Something I thought was fascinating. And I want to get your take on the goal that was called back. So it was all handled pretty quickly. And it was an offside decision, so the center referee did not go look at the monitor. That's how they've been instructed. I believe in Champions League, I believe in FIFA competitions is if it's an offside decision, it's a yes or it's a no. You trust what your video assistant referee is telling you. You don't go to the monitor.
Yeah.
And that's what happened here. So goal's called back. The question was kind of the reverse of what happened in the Joseph Martinez goal against Kansas City last year that was called back, where the ruling from Mark Geiger on the field was that the defender did not intentionally, not deliberately play the ball, bringing Joseph onside in that situation. This was the reverse. You had a defensive player, Christian Eriksen, playing the ball back towards his own goal, and a Manchester City player deflect it, and that triggered the offside on Aguero. The question was intent. Did the attacking player intentionally play that ball into Aguero? For me, I don't think you can rule that as unintentional when it's an attacking player, and yes, the touch does, it's not a pass from the attacking player, but it's a deflection, and it's going into an attacking sequence. I don't think you can say that it was unintentional, but on Counterattack yesterday on SiriusXM FC, you had, according to Brian Dunseth, Major League Soccer referees who handle VAR, who are video assistant referees, texting. He had a referee text him and say that he would not have overturned that because it was not a deliberate play from the attacking player on the touch to bring the attacking player into an offside position. That's it's a weird decision because I can't remember anything like it. But what was your gut reaction when you saw it, and now having some time to reflect on it? What'd you think?
No, I thought it was offside, and I'm just like, okay, and you just trust. I mean, that's a short answer, but I mean, you look at it, and for me, I'm like, yeah, I thought it was offside. As much as the game was absolutely bananas, and I know that a lot of folks are going to sit there and say, well, you don't want it. You don't want the game to be decided by VAR at that latest stage. I want them to get it right.
That's my number one thing. I just want it to be right.
Yeah. So for me, it's I want it right, and and Pep Guardiola was one of the first ones to sit there and say he's disappointed. But I think if I remember correctly, Pep said that it was offside. So I've got to go with Guardiola in this case. I think that's a safe play.
Yeah, it's a tricky one. I thought Meola on Counterattack yesterday, Tony Meola, former U.S. men's national team goalkeeper, had a really good point about it. And I've agreed with his general take on these types of situations that the center referee going to the monitor can be a tactic that the referee uses to sell the call. If they go take a look and they overturn this, okay, maybe you feel a little bit better about it. Maybe it changes the way you view what the referee did. I think that's absolutely something to consider, and it can be useful. And when we had the referee mic'd in the A-League in Australia, that was one point of the conversation there was, go to the monitor to sell it. Now, I know this is an offside one and it's not supposed to go there. I still think the referee could have went to look about the deflection. And we don't know what was said. And I thought Meola made a great point about this because if you just have the video assistant referee telling the referee on the field, he's offside, Aguero was offside, he hadn't returned to an onside position before the touch, it came off of a Manchester City player, he's offside. If they didn't give the commentary that, hey, there's a question on if it's an intentional play from the Manchester City player to Aguero, that could have been looked at, and maybe that would have changed the perception a little bit. Honestly, I think most people feel like they got it right in this situation. I haven't seen a ton of anger about it.
No, I think you have that base level of anger about your team wanting to go through to the semis.
Sure, absolutely.
But you haven't seen that level of anger specifically about the call being incorrect. And for me, there's a difference there. If you're lashing out at the call, it's one thing. If you're lashing out because your team lost, it's something entirely different. So I've seen people who were pissed that their team lost. If you're a Man City fan, but I haven't seen people sit there and jump on the call itself.
Yeah, I think it's actually went over okay. As good as it could be in a situation like that. Look, it's a brutal way to lose. I mean, if you're Manchester City in this situation, and yes, I've seen the people come out and blast Pep Guardiola for this, that, and the other. Look, that's the type of game that no one deserves to lose. neither team should be going home after a performance like that. It was an epic match, and VAR was part of it, but I do think that VAR got the decisions right. Now, there have been some questions about the Tottenham goal that put them up from Llorente, and was there a handball before that? I don't think there was, and if there was, I think there's no intent and nothing that he could have done in it, but there is some change in the way that handling is going to be called going forward, to where I think they're basically taking the intent part out of it, and it's just hits your hand in a goal-scoring sequence, it's no goal. So that's not in effect yet. And I'm not 100% sure it hit his hand or his arm. I've seen different angles, and it's kind of hard to tell. That was a really tough one. It felt like that was the correct call, though.
Yeah, I think they're 2 for 2 there. And as I'm sitting here looking at a lot of Manchester City fans looking at surrender cobras for the Llorente run,
that's brutal.
And I think a lot of folks are sitting there and thinking that it was, but if you look at Llorente and how his arm was contracted, you're looking at arms in natural positions, and it looks like it glanced off his elbow, then his hip, and then it went off of the Manchester City defender and in the net. So I've got to sit there and give it the benefit of the doubt. It was tucked. It wasn't something that sits there and you're trying to guide it in with your elbow or something. I've got to go with unintentional contact, and it's a goal.
Some other news and notes before we wrap up. 5 sellouts so far for the Women's World Cup in France. Over 720,000 tickets sold. Still got a couple more months. That's great numbers out of France for this. Also on the women's side, the Chicago Red Stars inked a local TV deal with NBC Sports Chicago to provide local coverage for every remaining match this season.
Strong.
Yeah, awesome news. They have a better local TV deal than the Chicago Fire.
Yes.
That might tell you some things. That's an interesting one. U.S. Open Cup, the second round pairings were announced, and teams that are relevant in our neck of the woods. Memphis 901 would host the New York Red Bulls U23s, the USL League 2 team, if they advance. Otherwise, Memphis would head to New Jersey to face FC Motown. Birmingham Legion would have a potential to host if the Westchester Predators from Pennsylvania get through. Otherwise, Birmingham's headed to Baltimore to face FC Baltimore for the NPSL. Louisville City and North Carolina FC gets a little squirrely. Let's see. North Carolina FC would host the winner of the Richmond Kickers, or they will host the winner of the Richmond Kickers, Virginia United match. So North Carolina's at home. Louisville City hosts the winner of Reading United, Philadelphia Lone Star. It's another NPSL, USL League 2 battle.
And then you have Greenville and Tormenta.
Maybe. Possibly.
Well, either or. It's Greenville. If Greenville beats Tormenta, they host the Charleston Battery. Or if Tormenta win that first round match, then it's at MUSC Health with Charleston and Tormenta.
Right. The Battery would host Tormenta, but they would go on the road to Greenville. Now, Tormenta's USL League 2 team, if they get past the Chattanooga Red Wolves, they will be on the road to face Nashville SC. And Nashville is going to play their Open Cup second-round match at the Dean A. Hayes Track and Soccer Stadium at Middle Tennessee State in Murfreesboro.
Yeah.
I think that's a good move. I think that's a very good move to get that game there and broaden the fan base a little bit. Charlotte Independence will be hosting the winner of Miami FC from the NPSL or Florida Soccer Soldiers, an amateur affiliate who qualified for the tournament. So our friends the Villages could go to Tampa Bay to face the Rowdies if they get past the Lakeland Tropics. Hopefully the Villages have all their players eligible for this one.
Yes.
I don't have any mistakes on that type of thing. So you're starting to see some definition as we get further along in the Open Cup. The first round matches are coming up in a couple of weeks. Round 2 will be May 14th or 15th, depending on where you're at. It's going to be a fun one. I think the Open Cup, as you get more teams in USL Championship and USL League One, stronger teams in USL League Two and NPSL and UPSL and all the rest, you're going to see the Open Cup get more and more competitive, especially in these early round matches. And all of them are available on ESPN+. So Open Cup nights are going to be a lot of fun with everything all on one platform at ESPN+.
And that, to me, is and it's one of the things that I've added in the promo read, breaking the fourth wall. When we're doing Atlanta United 2 matches, we have a certain number of promos that have to be read within the show. And so the fact that I can now add the U.S. Open Cup to the ESPN Plus promo, I think it's just one of the cool things that we've gotten this season when it comes to the product on the air.
Yeah, it's going to be a good time. I'm really excited about all those just being available in one spot. You're not having to go find a Facebook live feed here, a Twitter stream here, a YouTube stream over there. It's just going to be so much easier to follow this tournament. Looking forward to it tomorrow. Mitch Northam, 9:30 to talk NWSL North Carolina Courage. Mike Conti, 10 o'clock, and Doug Robertson, 10:30 to talk about Atlanta and Dallas. We'll get you set for all of the other action around the country. Busy weekend with all the leagues in play. The only ones that haven't started yet are your NPSLs and USL League 2s, and they're only a couple weeks away. So all the soccer you can handle in the United States this weekend. Looking forward to it. We'll be back tomorrow at 9 o'clock. Mucho plati, y'all.
Mucho plati, y'all.